Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Australian Vintage Computer Collectors Zoom Catch-Up for November 2022.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
Before we begin, I'd like to say this is being recorded so others can view later. All right, so welcome, everybody. It's November. I might start and tell you what I've been doing for the last month, and that is basically not very much, except for
2 months.
2 months, yes. Yeah, so we missed October basically because my work was diabolical. But since then, I've basically spent the last 2 months playing in television games and selling things that I have no intention of turning on anymore, which was basically some GameCube stuff and some Jaguar stuff, but not too much. But I bought a truckload of Intellivision homebrew, which I briefly showed to people before. Piles of these, which is great. I also bought, for anyone who's interested, a book that is actually quite interesting. I saw a YouTube video the other day, and it's called Smoke and Mirrors. It's actually about the story of the Coleco chameleon.
Ooh.
So this is the backstory of the failed video game console that never was, and the goings on. So I saw a YouTube video about Smoke and Mirrors. I bought it on Booktopia, I think. No, Book Depository. I got it in a week. And so far I've gotten through half a centimeter, and I can tell you it's pretty good.
Oh, yeah?
And what's interesting is how people can take advantage of people like us who are very optimistic about retro developments, and how we will easily throw money at people, but really some of these people have no ability to deliver what you're trying to purchase. And yeah, it's a bit of a sad story of something that could have been something, but yeah, the guy had no way of delivering. I also, Cameron Bond, went to PAX. I did not see Cameron Bond, nor did I see his Vectrex that could print. And I only saw a Mattel Intellivision playing practically the worst game ever, Donkey Kong by Coleco.
How could you not? I had a whole section to myself with the IBM and the PC, base PCs, and the
your
iMac.
plotter snapshotter thingy.
The
Yeah.
I didn't see it. I checked my.
How could you not see it?
I was in there and I photographed. Everything was there. I can assure you, Cameron Bond was not there on the Sunday when I attended.
I was there. I literally walked around PAX twice. I just did a lap, and then another day I did one more lap, and that was the only thing I experienced of anything but being in that section. Did you see the IBM at least, like the original IBM I had set up with the green screen?
No.
Like you must have walked in there, saw the Intellivision, got infused with anger, and then left.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was not the case. What I did like was they had some nice cabinetry with some products in it. I saw a Dick Smith System 80 in there, and I saw some other stuff.
Yeah, so that was my two museum pieces were that one, and that was the Australian booth, I suppose you could call it. I don't know if you noticed, but it was all Australian stuff.
Yep, I did.
And the one next to it was the cheap computer war. So basically what you bought if you couldn't afford a Commodore 64.
Yeah, there was a Mattel Aquarius there, and I was just like, why is this here?
Because like, the theme was all really cheap, shitty little tiny computers. And that was the theme, right? Like the ZX81 and the Spectrum and the Aquarius. What else do they have? Oh, the Sword M5. That was in there.
That wasn't that cheap a computer, but yeah, okay.
No, it was in the shitty little computer that your grandparents bought you when you really wanted a Commodore 64 category.
Now, when was PAX again? Oh, here we are. I've just found my photos. So you reckon there was a 5150 there?
Yeah, I've got my 51. Oh, I've got half of it set up here. I got a 5150, 2 beige PCs.
There is a television playing.
Yeah, that's the Intellivision. That's not my setup.
But I did not take a photo of a 5150. Obviously, you might be right. Maybe I was just very upset.
Because if you walked around, you would have seen all the CRTs. Like my section was all CRTs. So I had the whole back wall to myself. So I had two Pentium ones playing Duke Nukem on giant CRTs.
Yes, I saw those.
Yeah, okay. And then the next one next to that was the 5150, playing Alley Cat and stuff like that on the mono 5151. Anyway, then next to that was an old iMac, just because people I thought people would blow out at an old iMac with a bunch of edutainment games on it from like schools, and they did. So I go, holy shit! I haven't played this since primary school. So that's the idea. And then the last one was the Vectrex. So it must have been so crowded that no one could see the Vectrex.
I didn't see the Vectrex at all.
Anyway, it did work. So that was cool. I got the whole write up on my blog. If anyone's interested,
I can share the recording that I've got that I made of it.
Well, that's all.
Or you can just throw your link in there.
Rob's video is on my blog as well. So if you want to watch that video and a write up of how the whole thing works, because I did it I wrote it up for the retro challenge. Because I think nerds are interested.
Can you put that in the link in the chat? Yeah.
Cam's Obsolete is my stupid website. It's also got my inventory of everything I have, if you're interested in that, which this group is. So if you're interested in the sort of crap I collect, it's all there as well. Where's the text on this? How do you type text on a phone?
Chat down the bottom. I'll type in the chat here so it can come up.
There it is. Yeah.
Very good. So that's all I really did in the last 2 months, which is not a whole lot. Not much to report. So I'm going to hand over to William, and you can tell us what you've been doing for 2 months.
All right, thanks, Anthony. Well, basically, in the last couple of months, I've managed to get as I was talking about last catch up. I got a ISA USB card that apparently is supposed to work in DOS. So I've had a bit of a chance to have a play around with that now, and it works rather well.
Is this the one that was recently covered by Lazy Game Reviews?
Yes, LGR did a video on it, and one of the other guys did a video on it. Tech Tangents, I think, did a video on it where he dug into all the different drives and what ones worked and what ones didn't work. And
I was having a look at that and thinking if I could get my mitts on one to reverse engineer it, we could have a very, very basic hard card.
It does work rather well. I've actually got it. Take you guys mobile with me on my laptop here now. I don't know how well this is going to work because these are CRTs, so this may not work very well. But so basically, I've just got it on a little fly lead off the back of the machine. And if we go into the Windows Explorer, I don't know if you guys will be able to. No, that's not going to work very well. But anyway, it works. You can hot swap the thing. It just works. The driver takes up about 4 kilobytes of memory, and it's just, yeah, as long as you do your partitions in a size and a format that is acceptable to whatever OS you're running. So obviously DOS, 5, DOS 6, 622, limited to about 2 gig, and make sure it's FAT16 and it'll read it. You can only do one partition on the USB key. So if you use an 8 gig key, you can't do multiple partitions to get all 8 gig in DOS. It only assigns one drive letter to the stick, and it'll be on the first partition. But yeah, apart from that, it actually works reasonably well. Transfer speeds, it's not too bad. Like I was getting, I think in Windows 95, I had it in my 486, so I just loaded the DOS drive in Windows 95, and I was getting, 800K a second, so almost USB 1.1 speed pretty much. In reads and similar in writes with just cheap USB keys, so doesn't work too bad. What else have I been up to? Oh, my Amstrad that's sitting over here, the PC 1640. For those of you that were at the last Melbourne get together at Springvale, you would have seen it was there, and at the previous catch up that we did here, it wasn't working. It magically fixed itself.
Yep.
It went from having faulty video memory to not having faulty video memory.
This is not common.
So not quite sure how that happened. I just happened to, I was testing something and I went, I need to, oh, that's right. I was going to I was going to take the Amstrad PPC, luggable machine, and I was going to use the monitor off the 1640 just so I didn't have to use the ridiculously small Super Twist LCD that you can't read. And I thought, so I put the power cord back in the monitor because I'd stripped the power cord out of the monitor to use an ATX power supply with the 1640. So put the power cord back into the monitor to power the luggable with it, and went, I can't be bothered getting the luggable out of the bag and unfolding it and everything. I'll just grab this thing, throw it up on the bench. I know it powers up and just comes up with video memory failed. And I'll be able to see if the monitor's working and the power supply lead's working. And sure enough, threw it up on the bench, hit the power button, and then it went beep and made some other noises. And I looked at the screen and went, why is it trying to boot? So I still don't know what caused that to go wrong, and I haven't been able to get the video memory to fail again since it started working. I've pulled the board out, put the board back in, and obviously to tidy some stuff up with it, but yeah, it just stayed working. So
yeah, clearly you're not satisfied with that.
No, I want to know why it had faulty video memory in the first place, and which chip it is, so I can replace it. But
It might not be a chip.
it could be trace,
like-
it could be anything.
I'm remembering a story of the Apple IIIs where the indicated fix for them because they overheated was lift them up about 10 inches and let them drop on the table.
The desk.
So if sort of jostling about it has just like moved a pin just slightly to get an intermittent contact good again.
Yep, I mean that is a possibility. That reminds me of a fix that brother had for was it Brother or Sharp? I can't remember. Back when I worked in the fax machine and photocopier repair industry, where the fix for this particular fax machine was to sit your keys on the desk, place the front left-hand corner of the machine on top of your keys, and then push down on the other two diagonal corners to flex the entire chassis of the unit to correct it.
Wow.
Jeeps.
And it was the official fix from, I can't remember if it was Sharp or Brother, was one of them. That was the official fix for this particular model fax machine. Like the documented fix that they sent out to the dealers.
The question is, did it work?
Most of the time it did. It fixed an alignment problem with the paper path back in the thermal roll fax machines. And yeah, the paper used to come through and it'd skew off on an angle and start to crinkle up on the edges. So the official fix was to just basically bend the chassis so that it was running true again. So that was an interesting story. What else have I found? Picked up a down here on the floor an eMac a couple of weeks ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago from the local tip for the princely price of $35. So that was a 1 gigahertz 1 gigahertz full 4 eMac. So yeah, got that back here. Thought, see if it works. Powered it up, and yeah, sure enough, it worked. It loaded straight into OS X along with all of the previous owners' data, photos, resume, addresses. Everything was on it.
Yeah.
So rewipe that, reinstall it, and then I thought, I wonder if you can overclock an eMac.
You can.
You can, and this one overclocked rather well. So it's a 1 gigahertz eMac, and it's now running very stably at 1.4 gigahertz.
Damn.
I would have tried for 1.5, but there was no documentation for a 1.5 setting on this particular board revision. 1.4 was the highest clock speed I could find on the net for resoldering the minuscule little jumper pads, which was rather fun when your eyesight's as good as mine and you have a soldering iron that looks like a chisel. But we managed to get it to go. Didn't even have to add any extra voltage to it. It went from 1 gigahertz to 1.4 on the stock voltage, and will now happily play 360p YouTube. Well, let's not say happily play 360p YouTube. It'll play it if you give it a few seconds to maybe about a minute or so to get itself right. But,
the computer's coming from those sorts of places with the data on it. A bit of a worry. I got an iMac something. I can't tell you which model it is. And it's come from a doctor's surgery. It's got everybody's x-rays on it.
Oh, nice.
Well, you got to upload that to the dark web, don't you?
I could do that.
Look at me,
I
just
could
put it out there with all the
Medibank.
Optus data and the Medibank data and
No, just offer Medibank like top security data storage.
Speaking of that, how many, raise your hand if you've been affected by one or both of these hacks. Oh wow, am I the only one?
No, looks like it.
So I lost my Virgin Velocity frequent flyer account because of the hack. I got this email today, which I'll read it to you. They've only got a few things from me, but they've got the following details: first name and surname, gender, date of birth, email, address, phone number, policy number, and all my personal activity data since I've been a member. So that's great. And also Optus. I was also done by Optus. So yeah, good times.
If they put all the data together, they should have enough to basically clone your identity.
In fact, I think one of you here tonight are the hacker.
But they haven't got the list. They haven't got your list of all your retro computers, so you're okay.
No, they're not. They're working on that. They're trying to get it from.
But yeah, no, that's been pretty much everything I've been up to for the last couple of months. Can't think of anything else that I've been mucking around. Oh, other than the fact that I did finally find a video codec that I could get running full motion video on a 486 in Windows 3.1.
Cool.
So I did actually manage to find a codec that worked for that.
What video card are you using in that 486 then?
At the moment, it's got an ET6000 in it.
Oh yeah.
No, that's no slouch.
No, quite a nice card. It did prior to that. I had a Cirrus Logic 5446 with 2 meg, and that, I mean, performance difference between those two in a 486. I mean, there's basically nothing in it. Like, they're pretty much identical in a 486 because you're pretty much CPU bound on everything and bandwidth bound on the bus. But yeah, no, it seems to run all right. It does about 14 FPS in Quake. So it's an Intel DX4 100 with a overclock to 120, so just a 40 meg frontside bus, and ridiculously tight RAM timings. Like, you know, one more increment on any of the RAM timings and it'll just crash. But it's right on the edge, and 128 megabytes of RAM in it as well.
They were a good machine, the DX4 100. Yeah.
You know, it runs quite well. But what was the codec I ended up using? I can't remember now. Let's open up one of these and it should tell me.
I can remember going to a PC show in maybe 1994, 1995. I can't recall, but they had a 486 showing this. Got the CD here somewhere of a train going across a bridge. It was a DX33. So
That was a DX 133.
and I just like full motion video on a 486.
I've obviously had to kill the audio because otherwise you'll get hit with a copyright. But it is
What video?
running 25 FPS. 25.
What video is that? What is that? Like a band or?
Yeah, it's a cover band from the Netherlands called the Dutch Eagles that basically cover all of the Eagles stuff, and actually they sound pretty close to the Eagles. So if you don't mute it, it'll that's why I turned the sound off. It'll copyright match. But you know, it does. And it'll even go full screen. Obviously, whereabouts are we?
It'd be a worry. Thanks for doing that because you would demonetize me, and of course,
It would.
My millions on this YouTube feed.
And full screen, it does it as well.
That's actually quite impressive for a 486.
So the video resolution's only what are we?
640 by 480.
320 by 240 probably.
Not even that. Yeah, 320 by 240, 24-bit, 25 FPS, with a data rate of 405. So I think that's about that's split between the audio and the video. So I think it's about 300 kilobits for the video, and then the balance of that's the packed wave audio to go with it. So that's ADPCM compressed 22 kilohertz mono. But yeah, it runs.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
yeah, so took a little bit to get it right, but much trial and error. And the worst part is that even on my modern machine, which is a what's that? It's got a Ryzen 5800X in it, using FFmpeg to compress this, it basically compresses almost in real time on a single thread. So for every 2 or 3 minutes of test video you wanted to compress, it took 2 or 3 minutes to compress it on a modern machine. Clearly, there's no acceleration for these old codecs in these modern CPUs.
What is the codec?
It is using, and oddly enough, it doesn't tell me here. With Windows 3.1. But I'll tell you what, let someone else have a go. Give me a few seconds to reboot this in Windows 98, and I can tell you what the codec is.
Perfect.
Or just bring up FFmpeg in your bash history.
Yeah, that's on the machine inside.
So what we'll do then is we'll pass over to Stuart, and Stuart can tell us about what he's been doing. You're muted still.
Sorry, yeah, I pressed the wrong button and I lost the video. Not a great deal. What I have been mucking around with is the this home built ZX81 that I might have shown you a while ago. I couldn't get it running at first. I didn't get any video out of it, and I thought the usual PLA or whatever they call it was dead. So I bought one of those ULAs. Yeah, so V Retro. It's got a FPGA chip that emulates the ULA. I'll see if you can. No, anyway, it's just a little.
Oh wow! Cool.
So, and it'll do. Yeah. So I put that in. It still didn't work, and then I put it in the other unit that I had that was faulty. And then I worked out there was some video related issue. So the 2 ULAs and the one that FPGA one I got all worked, which is a bonus. So, but I'm just waiting for a composite converter because yeah, look, I got it one working with RF, but I don't know, it's just a bit shabby. So, funnily enough, because I was one of the other issues I had is just using like an LCD screen with composite in, or even with RF. Sometimes the signal must be a bit weird because I couldn't get it working, but then when I actually put it on a TV, it did work. So maybe the horizontal and vertical sync on those things are just not 100% compatible and cause your modern screens to stuff up. So probably waste a bit of time there, but yeah, so just waiting for those bits. Not much else, to be honest. I went to the Catchup at the Springers Leisure Centre. Didn't see you there, Anthony.
No, unfortunately, I was somewhere else. I can't recall where. Oh,
so
that's right. Work.
You're where?
I was at work.
Oh, at work. Okay. So that was good fun. I set up a display just with a bit of a sort of a history of media. So I started off with my big massive I had my big massive hard drive platter, the one that's 26 inches in diameter, and I had some paper tape and 8-inch, 5 1/4, 3.5 inch, all the different sort of things. So that was a bit of fun. Got to chat to some people that I haven't met in real life just over this, which was good. So that was a bit of fun. Other than that, bit of just been writing a bit of machine language code for an old IBM mainframe for an emulator that I played with online.
Oh wow, cool.
So it's actually pretty cool. I'll put the link in the video in a sec, but essentially it's emulating a data center from the 60s, but an IBM mainframe. But they used the Unreal Engine. The guy that wrote the program wrote the emulator using Unreal Engine. So you can basically walk through the data center, you pick up a tape, and you walk back to the machine, you connect it to the machine. So he's actually simulated everything that you would do in real life, seeing obviously the mainframes were like in rooms, massive rooms, and you had to walk from one section to another. So pretty impressive stuff. Mind you, you needed it's quite funny because you needed quite a powerful computer for it to work well because of Unreal Engine and all the rendering and this and that to emulate a machine that had 8K of RAM and all that sort of stuff. So
is it like Is it web based?
No, you download it. It's you just download this program, and you run it. Yeah, and it's pretty cool. The guys, I'll put a couple of links in. It's if you don't know how to use the actual mainframe, then you can walk around and press some stuff. But if you do know how to use it by writing some code, you can actually punch in a, your punch cards, the 80-column punch cards. You can actually punch it in the machine, and if you make a mistake or too bad, like in real life, and then you take it out and you walk across to the card reader and you read it, and then you go across to the machine and run it. So there's a little cat walking around the data center, and it's very cool. Just thinking what I want to do, because I actually want to make an emulator a bit like the guy that made. Well, we spoke about this a couple months ago, that you've got the IMSI, with device which is an emulator. Yeah, I wanted to make a emulator for the 1401 mainframe, IBM 1401 mainframe, but I want to use and a real front panel. And I found a guy in America that's got one for sale, a deceased estate, and he bought a house and it's got stuff in it that he's sort of like in the middle of moving, and he's like, he's a bit busy to sell it to me yet, so I'm hoping to get that. So it'd be nice to interface that, and I might talk to the guy that wrote the emulator and say to be able to connect physical hardware for I/O and then use it through his emulator, which would be pretty cool. So
cool.
But otherwise, that's it for me. I haven't. But what I've been trying to find actually is I don't know if anyone's got one. I'll just grab it. I do have. I've got a couple of these, which is the.
Compumate. Spectrum video Compumate.
Yeah. So
practically the worst computer ever.
Yeah, I know, but it was my first computer, so I wanted to get it running. So I got a couple of them I bought a while ago, and they don't work. And there's not much in them, but it's easy to get one working when you've got another one to check. But yeah, so and I don't know, they seem to go for a little bit online. They used to be cheap. Now everything's expensive, but when it's
how expensive is Spectrum?
I'm not super expensive. When they want a couple of $100 and it's like untested, it's probably like not working. So it's like to find one that is working. You probably all notice this when people say untested, and the seller's got 100 things. I'm like, yeah, no, it's tested. It's just like not working. So, but yeah, there's not much to it, to be honest. It's just a couple of ROMs and RAM, but I haven't found a huge amount of information online about it. But I want to get that running, probably connected to a better keyboard or something, because that was my first computer.
Do you not have a manual for
it? Well, a schematic.
No, the manual that came with it.
I got the manual, yeah.
Okay, you do.
No, it just doesn't work. I mean, I got two of them ages ago. They don't work. You plug them in, nothing happens. So light comes on. That's about it. But yeah, that was the first computer. Like I said, I had. If you can call it a computer, Power 2600. I got that to add on. You could write programs in BASIC and save them to cassette. So, but other than that, that's about it for me. I'll put the link in the chat if anyone's interested in that anyway.
Of the video game?
Oh, it's the for that IBM mainframe emulator through Unreal Engine. Yeah.
It's in the chat, is it?
No, I'll put it in there now.
Oh, yeah, great. Because I can't imagine someone taking the time to make like a 3D game in their spare time and then program a mainframe inside of it. That's amazing. I'm definitely going to download this.
And what's interesting too is on the they've actually got a fully working IBM mainframe at the Computer History Museum, and there was a section where the guy toggled in a program from the front, and on this guy's YouTube channel, he even like copies all the switches and then he keys it in his own thing and does the same thing. So he's actually there's a program called SimH, which is like for emulating old computers and stuff, and I believe he's used that part for the emulator, but the Unreal Engine stuff's, it's pretty awesome. So all you guys have more games than I am, so you probably got better computers with GPUs in them. So, but I'll put it in there when I find it.
Awesome. Thanks, Stuart.
Nice.
Horst, tell us what you've been up to.
I've had a lot of my older computers randomly not boot up recently, including this really nice Super 7 board that I recently got from a chap within the community. It was working fine when it left, saw the video and everything. Got here, wouldn't boot. The VRM started getting very, very, very warm indeed. I'm just like, right, that's getting recapped and serviced. I'm not. Other than that, I've just been trying to keep things running somewhat. I've gotten back into the Adelaide stuff. I have recently grabbed some dual Pentium 4 Xeon boards, which I'm going to turn one of them into a like peak 2000s server build and see if I can foist the others off onto some other poor bastard who doesn't have a warm enough house or a high enough power bill. Now that I've got CPUs for them. It's just builds at this point. I don't know where the line is on vintage, but there are some mini ITX Core 2s down there, and I'm wondering if I really, really want to relive the early days of the Hackintosh scene. Because like I was there for those, and I'm just thinking that maybe with hindsight and 10 years on, I'll feel less inclined to shoot myself in the head trying to do this because now it's retro and cool. Isn't that how this goes?
No,
If we were dealing with these roadblocks when the tech was actually new, we'd go and string people up. We would throw hands. We would maybe risk calling someone in the pub mate. Like that's how bad it was. But now these little bumps in the road, we're all detached from it. The stakes are a little bit lower. We're not going to lose all our uni work because the hard disk crashed. Now we can sort of enjoy it and laugh off the foibles. I think this is the secret to being involved in this scene and just not needing copious amounts of blood pressure medication, is to just recognize that now we need the blood pressure medication for our new computers.
I don't think it was that bad. My first Intel Mac was a Hackintosh 10.6. Wasn't too bad, except when Apple released the software update and you had to go back and repatch the thing and spend 30 minutes getting it working after every update.
Yeah, I'm the same. Look, mine was a Core Quad something or other, but it's just too hard to update. Like, and if that's your primary machine, it's a pain in the ass.
Yes, it was, but it was faster than the G5. So,
yep, that's fair. Though speaking of fast, I realize this isn't quite retro aligned. I have a new computer here. It's very nice. It's running Windows 11 now. The one good thing to come out of Windows 11 is that the Windows subsystem for Linux is actually really performant. So if I want to compile a package for a much older system, I can just chuck it into that and call it good. Which has been really useful because I've rebuilt a Slackware 7 instance running on a Sound Blaster 16 and a dodgy as sin video card, but it is running Slackware 7. I've managed to get SSH on it so that I can get files in and out and talk to real computers, and I'm really, really not missing the bad old days when I first started using Linux. And I have Gentoo on this ThinkPad here. Someone accidentally closed the laptop while it's in mid-compile earlier, and the laptop actually went to sleep. Laptop actually went to sleep, out of the box, no screwing around needed. That is how far we have come on the Linux desktop. This thing just went to sleep, and back in the 90s we are desperately wishing that we could get some sleep. Yeah, that's where we're at. We have really old Linux archaeology, and I've been doing a bunch of emulation nonsense because my real computers are filthy traitors and need to be threatened with a soldering iron. That's that. I see William's got Windows 95 up and running, or 98, so I think we may learn about that codec now.
Yes, I have. It's using the sign pack codec, which is part of, obviously comes with Windows 3.1 as well. It took me a while to find it, but I don't know whether you guys will be able to read that if I bring it in. Maybe. Probably not. Can anyone see that? Is it visible, not readable?
Microsoft ADPCM looks like your sound. I'm not seeing which version of Cinepack that is.
No, it's probably version 1 from memory. If I remember correctly from running it in Windows 3.1, I'm pretty sure it's version 1.
Nice.
As the install codec. Because I'm pretty sure Windows 3.1 only has version 1. But I can double check that because I can just reboot back into Windows 3.1 and see which version of the codec it comes with. I'm pretty sure it's 1, like the first version. But yeah, as I said, apart from the fact that it takes real time to encode it even on a modern machine, it works. I just wish I could come up with a way of getting whatchamacallit, the encoder to actually run in multi-thread. That'd be nice.
That would be nice.
Then it'd be about 8 times faster than it is currently. But yes, no, the encoding process basically just maxes out 1 thread on my modern Windows 11 machine, and yeah, it runs at about 26, 27 frames a second.
Okay.
Very good. But yes, it is version.
Well, that's going on. Is there anything else that you've been doing?
Not really, though there is one thing I'm going to quickly point out in case anyone else was invested. You may all recall the repro Commodore 64C cases a little while back.
Yep.
A thing that I was looking at the same time was the Prism Commodore 64 keycap set. It looks like that's ended up being a stupid
Kickstarter, wasn't it?
Indiegogo, but yeah. I just went back to look at that because I was reminded that I still don't have my keycaps, and it would be nice to know if I'm the only one. So if any of you are waiting on, I think it was called Phase 5 was the firm that was trying to do this.
I'm waiting on. Let's forget about it, I think is the answer.
It's not happening.
Oh, what's that?
The chaps closed the Indiegogo thing altogether. So like, I think he's either walked away with a large amount of money, or what would be a worse tragedy is walked away with less, with his own losses and a new appreciation for how difficult manufacturing is. I would have preferred it if he'd buggered off to Hawaii. At least someone would have had a good time.
So basically, he raised some money but was unsuccessful in delivering the product.
Yes, and it's been multiple years. I think it's been 7 years at this point.
Oh my goodness!
So I don't think we're getting those keycaps.
Sorry about that.
It is what it is. Weren't you saying that that we want to support developments in the retro scene, and that means that we get parted from our money?
Yes, it's called smoke and mirrors.
It's not always an act of dishonesty. It's not always a scam. Sometimes it's just the way the cookie crumbles. But like, if we wanted a safe investment, I feel like we all would have gone into muscle cars or real estate.
Or Bitcoin. Or GameStop. Yeah, you're right.
Game stonks. Anyway,
right.
Yeah, that's me, I think.
No worries. All right. William, do you have an update on the information regarding the codec?
I do. It is version 1.106. So that is the version information in Windows 3.1.
Very good. All
So
right,
yes,
Bob, you are up. Tell us what you've been doing.
Okay. So basically, I've had a lot of fun this month with modern gear getting in the way, so I haven't had as much spendy stuff. Other than a couple of things. When I was at PAX, the distributor for the modern Atari VCS had them with a massive discount. So I ended up picking that up. It's like basically $300 instead of the almost $900.
Where did you say you got that?
So the distributor company called Bluemouth had them. They had their booth at PAX, where they sold modern gaming stuff and those, and they had them basically discounted for the weekend. The gamesmen are running the same discount, so for $300.
I paid at Kickstarter, so I paid a fortune for it.
Yeah, I mean I've been messing around with it. I actually really like the classic joystick.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's like it's silly things. It's like having the spinner is really cool for playing some of the games in the collection. But I love the way they did the LED ring around the stick to mimic that the painted ring on the original Atari controllers, and it lights up depending on the game.
I agree. The thing that I don't like about the VCS is the fact that you think that an input device would share some similarities with the other input device.
Yeah.
There are games that only use this joystick, and then you have to use this joystick, and it's like, come on, man. Yes, this one only has a stick, a spinner, and one button, and that one has 97 buttons. But come on, at least let the D-pad work. No.
Yeah.
No. You have to plug in the other controller. It's like, okay.
Yeah. I had fun getting it set up. I had to actually contact support to get them to give me the firmware image, because it was like I'd set it up. Firstly, the stupid 32 character limit on the Wi-Fi. My original Wi-Fi network had a long password because I'm stupidly paranoid. So I'm sitting there setting it up. I was like, oh, the password doesn't fit. So I had to tether to my phone. And then it was like trying to download the latest update just kept failing.
Are you telling me that your password is greater than 32 characters?
It was. Because like I said, with modern gear, my router died a few weeks ago and I had to replace it. So now I have a more sensible password. And not only did the router die, I had to replace the network storage, because I used to have because I had an old Airport Express and I had a USB hard drive plugged up. So I had to replace that, and I bought a NAS. And then on my PC that I'm here recording on, that had a memory failure. So I had to replace DIMMs. So I ended up upgrading to 32 gig RAM. So I've had a bunch of spendy stuff. So that was sort of that. I've been having fun with that. I'm still waiting for my game drive and Gravitic Mines for the Jag. Atari Age just shipped it a few days ago, because I ordered it too close to Portland Gaming Expo. So they're all busy with that, which is like completely understandable. Something else that was pretty cool that arrived after a rather long time is this is a Replicate Missile Command.
One moment. One moment.
So this is I'll wait for OP to get first. Nice.
So I don't know if we've got the same one, have we?
Yeah, it's the same edition, the regular edition. Because the field test has a much longer top bezel.
Oh, it's booting up now.
Yeah, so this is basically a 1/6 scale arcade cabinet emulating Missile Command. Like, they've licensed the ROM code. It's got the fun little, it's got a little trackball and the layout like the original coin-op. There's a whole series of these they've done. This is number 5 that I have.
This is my third. I've got Tempest, Dragon's Lair, and this one.
Yeah, I've got Asteroids. I got Centipede and Tempest, and then for incredible luck, I managed to get 1942 because I found a seller. Because that one they don't ship to Australia because apparently the licensing, but someone managed to import, and I basically bought it brand new for roughly what it would have cost had I actually ordered it legit. So I didn't feel I was scalped. So I was like, yes. But yeah, so it's a pretty fun little emulation of it, especially one thing I want to try and do is
pretty good.
They've done a really good job with the trackball. Like, Centipede had a nice trackball, but it was a little small. This is much bigger and it just feels really good. And like the fact they do that work to do that, to make the inputs feel right, is really cool. It doesn't have, like 1942 has this cool thing where it's got a HDMI output built in, and then you could plug in a USB controller, 2 USB controllers for 2 players. So you can do the 2-player thing, because 1942 has 1943 built in. Roughly the price, it works out to be about 300 Australian all up because of the shipping. I'll throw the link in. So yeah, like there's a really nice system that's been fun, and I managed to tick a couple of Amiga games off my want list, which I haven't done. I haven't gotten Amiga stuff for a while, but a couple of A500 games off the want list. The first being Paradroid 90. I'm a big fan of the original 64 game, and I've played this a bit, but I've always wanted to get my hands on it. And the other one, I don't like it as much as the original game. I've been wanting to do a video on it, and I found it. I was just like, I saw it listed in Oz. I put a watch on it, and then it was like 25% discount. So it's like, all right, you got me. And the other one is Uridium 2. Both of those are. This is an absolute late era Amiga classic. So I'm glad I got my hands on it. I mean, I love Uridium on the 64. So both of those have been on the want list for a while. So I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's really it. At PAX, I got to PAX. I masked up safely, had a blast. I won a tournament for Missile Command on the Atari 8-bits.
Really?
Yeah, I entered Cam's what's the Mindstorm contest on the Vectrex and got outdone by someone. I had the highest score. Then the person who followed me was hung over and completely obliterated me.
He's a freak though. Like just he will sit there for every year we've had PAX. He sits there for an hour getting the insane. He wastes an hour of his $100 ticket just to play Mindstorm for the 100th time.
Yeah,
he doesn't die. I've never seen him die when he was hungover as hell. I saw him die. I thought, holy shit, he must be really hungover.
But yeah, like Missile Command was like 4 signups, including myself. So it's like I had run number 2, and it's like I turned around, it's like, well, you number 2? It's like, yeah, you won, because it was like 4 people, because they ran a little differently. So yeah, unfortunately, instead of a medal, it was a little sticker on which I was affixed to my badge. So I was like, yeah, I pretty much happily won that. And then yeah, the reason I was potentially going to be late today was this weekend was Syntax, which is a demo party that is held in Melbourne. I went there. It's the first time I've been in 7 years, because I've just had a bunch of conflicts. Even before COVID, I couldn't make it. And I submitted a photo in their photo comp, and I think I was in the top half of the results out of like 30 odd submissions. So I was pretty happy with that. I took a shot of, I was trying to find the eclipse earlier this week, and where I am, like I'd been in town for some stuff after work, and it was all because it'd been rain. It was all cloudy, and I couldn't see the eclipse. And I took a shot of the sunset while I was at the train station, and it was a black and white photo submission. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that. I spent some time there yesterday. I brought the Specky Next, and just stuffed around looking through the manual punching stuff in BASIC just for fun, enjoying the vibe. I'm hoping changing some stuff around video process after the end of the year. And I really want to get back to writing some vintage system code. Yeah, that's really it for me. It's just been like just sort of catching up. Work's been a little busy. We've been getting to the point of submitting Goldmaster candidates, so I've been horrendously busy. I have been doing some stuff. I've been looking at the Atari 50 collection for modern systems. In short, it's actually pretty amazing as a historical piece. Like you've got the main focus is sort of like a museum exhibit, like split up into 5 paths that sort of cover the early arcade days, the dawn of the 2600, the rise of the home computers, the sort of the crash and the crash era in the 80s, and then the 90s with like the Lynx and Jag. There's 100 games in there, like, and it includes stuff from a bunch of arcade games, bunch of 2600 games, a few 8-bit games, including Yump. So they got that release on there. A couple of 5200 games, and they did some enhancement. One of them was Star Raiders, so they used the 5200 because they did a whole bunch of enhancements to the control handling. So it's like you have like the second thumbstick on your gamepad brings up this radial menu to access all the ship systems. So it's actually like it's really convenient. So instead of having to like emulate the keypad, they've sort of done some mappings that make handling it a little more approachable for a modern player.
Is this on the VCS?
It's on the VC. It'll be on the VCS. I think it's slightly delayed there, but it's on Windows, Switch. I've got a Switch copy. I'm actually doing a write-up for some folks I do some stuff for. So I've got that coming up in a few days. PlayStations and Xbox. Unfortunately, unlike the previous collections, it's only on Windows for the PC. There's no Mac or no Mac version like Atari Vault, which has just been sunset. Yeah, it's an amazing collection. A lot of it's really cool, the exhibits, and there's like a bunch of interviews. Like one random tidbit that I learned was I did not know Eugene Jarvis worked at Atari doing pinball games. So it's like they interviewed, there's a little interview of Nolan Bushnell. There's a bunch of other folks that get interviewed. There's a funny one about like the drug taking culture where it's just like, it was with David Crane being all straight laced. It's like none of that happened in my department. And then it cuts to Todd Fry, who wrote the 2600 Pac-Man. And he's like, yeah, we will do it all the time. It's a really cool collection that is, if you have like a modern PC or a modern console or the VCS, it's worth grabbing and just watching, exploring the exhibits and then playing the games. Like the games include, one thing I was really happy with is Tempest 2000 is there. So there's a bunch of Jaguar games.
Oh, right.
And comparatively speaking, it's pretty good emulation because it's NTS. It's obviously because it's modern systems all running at 60 hertz. They use NTSC code. And my best performance in Tempest on that is not far off my best performance on PAL hardware. So it's got to be good emulation if I can play mostly as well as that.
Cool.
Hey, Rob, I was thinking about that as well. I was going to mention my bit, but that it does look really attractive in that it is kind of set out like a mini, Atari museum.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I haven't bought it yet, but I intend to. Is there any thoughts of what platform will be better to use it on? Like, I was kind of thinking about the PS5 just to be able to have it on the TV rather than, because I think a lot of those kind of games I'd be happy to play in front of the TV. Where
I mean, I got it on Switch because I got review code for Switch. And I was playing it both handheld and docked. That's the only one. I also bought the physical copy because I pre-ordered a physical copy and then I got the review code. So I was like, well, I'll take the review code anyway because but yeah, I would say probably play it there. Like one of the things is on the Switch, it's rock solid. So they really optimized it there. If there was going to be problems with anything, that's probably where I'd see them. And the fact I don't see any problems on Switch means realistically, it's going to be great anywhere. I think you're going to have a solid experience anywhere. So yeah, probably be a little nicer on the PS5 on the couch. Because one thing that's cool is for the games that use paddles and spinners, you can use the touchpad on the dual sets to emulate that. So like you can play Breakout and all of those games with that.
Yeah, cool. It's funny. I watched your review of the Retroids, or what's the Rebooteroids, and I almost wrote in there, hey, are you going to review the Atari 50? So
yeah, I might actually, because I'm sort of like I may do some stuff on my own channel about it. I'm doing a bunch of stuff for Player 2, who are the folks I was writing this for. I'm going to do some stuff there, but I'm sort of a bit stumped on what I want to cover next on my channel anyway. So I might do some stuff there as well. I'll probably do a thing. That's probably going to be the easiest thing for me because I've just been thinking about that for the last week or so. So I'll probably do more on that.
Yeah, it's cool.
But yeah, definitely, it's a collection that is like, it's amazing, and I want to see more like this for other.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when I was like, I've seen a few YouTube summaries of it, and I was like, it'd be cool if there was like a Commodore one or a Acorn one, or like whatever they do. But the cool thing about that is just doing the 2600, 5200, 7800, the 8-bit lines, the Jaguar, the Lynx, like so cool to kind of have that full historical perspective, selected games, prototypes, arcade games. Like it's pretty cool.
And then there's also like the reimagined stuff that's pretty neat.
Yeah. I've seen that demo of like Yars Revenge switching between the different, like the original mode and the updated mode. That's very cool too.
Yeah, it's
Just
nice.
ordered it online for the Switch.
Nice.
Cool. Very good. Anything else, Rob?
No, that's all me.
All right, Pat, tell us all about it.
It's been a couple of months since we caught up. Kind of around the time we would have had the last call, I was in the UK, and for a couple of days when I first got to the UK at 5 a.m, actually leading up to that point, I wanted to see if I could get to RMC's museum that he set up, and it just, the timing was bad for that. He was closed during that period. So I had this plan that I'd get into London, and then I go up to Leicester, go to the Leicester Computer Museum, and then I go down to the main computer museum in Bletchley Park.
Yep.
And oh man, it was rough luck. I went up to the Leicester Computer Museum, and it's kind of in this. It's in this. It's not an industrial park. It's a nice little park area. The building's on one side, but they're having some fair in the middle. And I got there at some. I mean, I've been up for a pretty long time, and once I got there, because Leicester's not close, it's a couple of hours out of London. I got there, and they basically said to me, "Oh no, that guy's closed the museum for today because we're having this little fair in the park." And I'm just like, "Oh shit." So I go back to the Leicester train station. I'm like, "Okay, can I get a ticket to go to Milton Keynes, because that's where the computer museum is." And they're like, "No, there's a train strike today. You can't get down that way." And I'm just like, "Oh man." So anyway, I was completely buggered. And but the next day, I actually had a successful trip over to Cambridge to go to the Cambridge Computer Museum.
How was that?
And yeah, it was really good. They have really good. Their philosophy is to try and be as hands-on and allow people to interact with the computer as much as they can. They've got the entry area where they've got a lot of Sinclairs and Acorns on display. They've got like a kind of like a computer classroom where they've got a bunch of Acorn systems, research machine systems, like a lot of systems they would have had in the classrooms in the UK back in the 80s, including like the Domesday demo and all that sort of stuff. And you know, that's both Archimedes and BBC Micros and stuff like that. And then there's kind of like then the main exhibit area, which is quite large. It's like walking into a warehouse, and they've got everything in there from big iron to like a consoles and arcade machine display, just all sorts of things. And yeah, I spent about 3 hours there. Pretty, you know, was quite interested in looking around. Kind of felt both proud and disgusted that I had many of the machines I was looking at, but you know, like I was, but definitely not set up as nicely. And so, no, they just, I was really impressed how they set that museum. I suspect it's probably not as big as the Bletchley Park one, but I did like the philosophy of how they had set it up. It's all like any of these kind of things. It's all run by volunteers, and you know, they have talks and all those sorts of things. And so, you know, it was a nice thing to do.
I did go to the Bletchley Park one. And
did you say you've been there?
Yes, I have been to Bletchley Park. And other than say the Enigma machine and some of the Colossus is there and some other stuff, the personal computer area was not that great. So I'm guessing that for I guess home users, the one that you saw was probably better at Cambridge.
Yeah, cool. I mean, they had a few big irony things, but those things you generally didn't interact with much. So, for example, they had an IBM Blue Gene system, and then next to that they had like a workstation, but it was actually a bullshit display because they had a big IBM, like a 21-inch CRT. But I know that they had like a PC behind the CRT that was playing chess. Like it wasn't actually the Blue Gene playing chess. That was cool. Like it was nice for them to demo it all. They had some big iron SGI stuff. They had some big iron deck stuff. but yeah, you can see it's just an ongoing, evolving environment that they're always playing around with, and the little the mini arcade area was fun to play around with too. Just encouraging. I do like the idea that they encouraged people to get in and use the systems there. That to me, I found just a really nice, philosophy, and it was cool. Apart from that, I went to the last get together in Keysborough as well. So that was good seeing Stewie's media display. And the same day I actually went to the Amiga Club. That's the first time I've actually gone to the Amiga Users Club. But it was nice to kind of go in there and have a little bit of a look around. And it's probably not 100% Amiga, like there's a few, Commodore 64s in there and all that sort of stuff. And, always someone bringing in something to kind of put a cat amongst the pigeons. But yeah, that was cool too. I was curious, Anthony, with that mention of the Coleco Chameleon, whether you had invested in the Intellivision Amico.
Of course I did.
What was that? Of course you did.
Of course I invested. Of course I haven't asked for a refund. And of course I'm going to lose all my money.
Yeah. Oh, look, I reckon if you put enough bets on, you're eventually going to, lose one or two here or there. But I think, that one's been interesting. I can't believe I haven't actually had a conversation with you about that. I haven't, by the way, but that's not for any other reason than I was doing too many things, and I just, like by the time I took an interest in it, I was kind of pondering whether it would be real or not, where I think if I'd seen it right at the start of the Kickstarter, or I probably would have maybe shown interest early.
It's so long ago that money is already gone.
Yeah.
I think it was
for
2019 sure. I put the money in and haven't seen anything about it.
I think when I first came across it, I was sitting there kind of going, I don't know what they're doing with this platform, because I couldn't, like, it. The hardware looks pretty cool, but just the software doesn't kind of strike me as very Intellivision-y. So that's where some of the reluctance came from. But I hadn't heard of that ColecoVision one, so I'll definitely look into that, because I actually quite like the ColecoVision, even though I didn't own it, but a neighbor had one, and I used to play the heck out of.
So just in a quick synopsis, you can find many YouTube videos about it. So the Coleco Chameleon was previously known as the Retro VGS, and basically was going to be a console based on sort of 16-bit style graphics that you could develop cartridges for, and the technology would last longer than, say, if you wrote software for a Super Nintendo, which they're not manufacturing consoles for anymore. That's the concept.
Yep.
Turned out that the prototype one that they displayed was a Super Nintendo. And then the second prototype was a video capture card stuck in a transparent case.
Jaguar shell.
Jaguar shell, yes.
So they acquired the Jaguar molds from the dental company.
That's the only thing that was authentic about it, was they had a authentic mold.
I thought that, like, because just when you were talking about it, I Googled it, and then I brought that up, and I was like, that case does look familiar. There you go.
So, it's not good. It's a sad story of broken dreams and misleading people. But anyway, the book's worth reading. I'm enjoying it. It doesn't resemble anybody that I know, but anyway, worth a look, Pat.
Cool. No, I'll probably look into that. But apart from that, actually, the only other thing I might mention, not to turn into a giant topic or anything, but I've noticed a few different retro groups talking about Elon taking over Twitter, and then various people flocking to Mastodon now, which is an interesting. I don't know. Like I don't mind the idea like I'm not a big fan of Facebook. In fact, like the reason I use Facebook is mainly for the groups. I don't really use it like I don't really interact with a ton of people on it otherwise. But I do like the idea of a non giant Silicon Valley company owning like forcing you to kind of go to whatever social media platform it is. Like I like the decentralized idea, but I noticed a few people are starting to kind of talk about it, and I mean, like I don't think I'll suddenly like get rid of my Twitter login, but I've been pondering kind of taking a look at that a little bit more. So
I'm on Mastodon already, but I'm not using it. But I'm not using Twitter and I'm not using Facebook, so it's not really hurting me. But I gotta say, I understand your concern.
Anyway, that's it from me.
Cool. Roy, you're up.
Hi, yeah, I haven't been doing a lot recently, because of work, but recently I've dragged out my TS-80 Model 1, which I've been playing with over the weekend, just writing some code in BASIC, just for fun, because the TS-80 Model 1 was the first computer I used in the 70s when I was at school. I finished restoring my superboard Rev B board, so that's all up and running now. I've also got the RS-232 interface working on that. And I've also got the 4-bit DAC working. So I've been playing with that as well. I've also just been given some 486 machines that I've been playing with. So I've also been playing with DOS and Windows 3X and good old Windows 95. So yeah, I've just been cruisy and just mainly playing with my TS-80 this weekend.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. So with all those accessories with the 4-bit DAC, that was all for then the superboard, that's all for the TRS-80?
That's the superboard, it's 6502 scientific. Where is it? This fellow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a single board machine. It could have up to 8K of RAM on the board, and it runs 32 by 32 characters, and you could mod it to run 64 or 48. That was also cloned by Practical Electronics with the UK 101 system, which is a very similar design. That's another 8-bit machine. So I've been playing with 8-bit machines this week and 16-bit machines. Yeah, cool.
Is the superboard an Australian machine?
No, it's an American machine, a higher scientific.
Oh, it's a higher scientific.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, it was released, that machine was released, the Red B in 78, and that was the very first computer that I actually owned, and that's the original board that I got as a birthday present in 1979.
You're kidding, that one there?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you didn't just have it sitting like there exposed in no time?
It had spent over 30 years in my brother's shed. I got it out of storage about a year and a half ago.
Oh, wow, cool.
And I had to replace quite a few of the sockets just because of corrosion. At first, I didn't think the board worked at all, but some of the memory chips were fine, but it was the actual sockets. So I had to pull all the sockets off, put new sockets in. A couple of 747 TTL chips had failed, and yeah, just replace the sockets, put a couple of TTL chips in, and up it ran. It runs. I had to replace the keyboard, a few of the switches, which I had to get from the States, and that was the biggest job, was getting the keyboard to work again, just because of the corrosion.
So back in the day, did you put that in a case, or did you have that?
I had it in a case that I bought from Dick Smith, in a metal case, but the case has long since disappeared. I've been thinking about building a case for it. I'm also restoring one for the Australian Computers Museum Society. They've also got a system, and it's in a case that I'm actually considering using that same design, which is a timber metal case. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Oh, very good. Thank you, Roy.
I got a
Yeah,
question for Roy. What's that up on the back shelf there? The white case with the right up the top. Is that like one of those PDP 11 emulate or PyDP 11? Is it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is
okay.
indeed. I'll grab it down.
Oh, well, that's an optical illusion. I thought that screen was on the same shelf.
So yep.
Oh,
So
cool.
yep, and it's just using a Raspberry Pi.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Nice.
Yep, and it's got 4 serial ports, and I've got a VT 320 that I connected to.
Oh, very
Yeah.
cool. I
Yeah.
hadn't seen one in real life. I'd seen them online, and I thought, oh, someone can pick it up and hold it and see. It's slightly, obviously, it's not as big as the real deal, but it's
No,
it's not as wide, is it? It's a little bit narrower. Yeah.
It's very narrow.
Yeah.
But it's a good little machine. Yeah, and when I worked for Pont, we had a room full of PDP-11s back in the early 80s. So I've got a fun spot for PDP-11 machines.
So I've got a 1134 I'm trying to get working at the moment. Yeah. Well, when I say at the moment, I've got it. I haven't worked on it for a while, but yeah, with RL drives and so forth.
That's a great thing. You don't have to worry about disk platters. You don't have to worry about power supplies. You just on it goes. Yeah, but that's part of the fun sometimes, things that don't work.
Well, yeah, the power supply for mine is, I need to get a cap for it, which was, it's pretty easy to get a cap, but it's one of those things where I just sort of took it out and I put it to the side and I'm like doing something else, but yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh, very good.
Okay, wonderful.
All right, Cameron, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm just fiddling around. So, do anyone else left if they're about?
You want me to leave you last?
Yeah, I'm
right.
just mucking around with this stuff here, trying to get it to work.
No worries. All right, Michael, you're up.
Me?
No, actually, the Michael 2 to the left. So the other Michael. You're in 2 more people, Michael.
So this Michael.
This Michael, you're good.
Magic. Thanks. I've had a bit of time to do some stuff lately. It's been nice actually. I went through my one ring binder of old stuff. I found my childhood Commodore 64 games list and stuff. And the next time I encounter a mainframe.
Oh wow, there you go.
From when I first started university, and they said, "Here's your Vax VMS account." And I was like, "Oh wow." Been doing some 3D printing work. I've put a GoTech for my Amiga into a box. There are plenty of solutions around, but I didn't want a ribbon cable, so I've done a proper cable to make it look nice. The enclosure I got off Thingiverse. It was supposed to be for something called a grease weasel, which most of you will know about. And I did my sort of first CAD on Tinkerverse to sort of block all the holes up and then make one for a round cable. And I've got a little adapter, and it works quite well. I just need the brass inserts for the screws to clamp it together. And also with 3D printing and thinking about the Amiga Paradroid 90, I printed this little fellow as well.
I do approve.
Yeah, I think I scaled him to 4 times from the model off Thingiverse, and he's really 3D. He lives on top of my 1541 too, and I think it works better with him on. I think he might be I think he might have taken command of it. This is a DVDO Edge scaler, and it had a 5-volt power supply in it, which was mains powered. And we all know about mains, and I think the general consensus is for people who aren't qualified, it's best avoided. And this was one of those things where the power supply just threw out 5 volts at 2 amps. So I put a barrel connector on it, marked it accordingly. And then inside there's a piece of chocolate block and a low ASR cap and a ceramic just to take the tops off anything from a a bit of a second-rate plug pack, and it works great. It's a really good scaler. The lid was covered in some sort of rubber that had gone all tacky, so I just sprayed it with satin black, and it actually worked really well. If you ever have any really big appliance, I don't know how you'd clean the rubber off. I started with acetone and stuff, and it was a nightmare. So I just sprayed it, and it behaved
So
itself
Michael,
100%.
you had that rubberized texture on it.
Yeah,
Spray painted it with black paint,
over the rubber.
and the problem's gone.
It's not sticky anymore. Yeah, it just, you know, this. I mean, it's not beautiful, but when
That's
you
an
touched it,
interesting solution I've never thought of.
well, it's a bit rough, granted, but you know, I mean, it's a scaler. It's not designed to be on display. It's designed to be,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm not judging. I'm just saying what an interesting solution.
It's not sticky anymore. It was good. You'd pick it up and you'd have bits of it like on your fingers. It was horrible. I don't know what to do with the remote. I'm a bit of a Saab enthusiast, and some of the controls on the Saabs go similar, but of course they're a lot smaller than the vast area of that case. And someone was saying to use hand sanitizer. The alcohol gel blend gave you exactly what you needed to sort of let it soak on there and dissolve it up, and then you could rub it off. So I'll try that with the remote and see how I go.
Yuck.
But it's just horrible. I'm sure you've all encountered some of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Is it IBM ThinkPad? Some of the IBM ThinkPads had that coating on it, and these days you touch them, and yeah, it's just horrible.
This I made a blunder. I started rubbing at it, and to the extent that the surface is anything other than pretty bloody good, it's where I was rubbing at it with acetone. I mean, if you had one that was just sticky, and I reckon a quick spray and it'd be just fine. It worked for me. The other thing I've done lately, which is a little bit controversial actually, because of the manner in which I did it, was I replaced the surface mount capacitors in my rack mount Amiga 1200. There was an English company that bought 1D4 motherboards, I think from Commodore, put them in a rack mount enclosure, and they went to hotels and stuff for kiosk type operations. And indeed, mine's got a sticker on the bottom about issues, and there's a column to say which hotel it was from. But I was concerned that the capacitors were going to leak and eat the board because they're. And I do have a hot air gun, and I have done SMD work with it, and I have solder paste and all of that. But in the end, I held the capacitors down onto the board with a pencil eraser on the end of a pencil and snipped them in half and then disassembled what was left. And I didn't lift a single pad. And it worked great. I talked to some people around the place, and I even mentioned, I think on here once, I was looking for a some e-waste that had surface mount capacitors to work on.
Yep.
And I just couldn't find any, although I've just realized today that this DVDO scaler has surface mount capacitors, millions of them. But snipping them off worked well for me. I didn't twist them. I didn't allow them to lift up as I was cutting them and all that sort of stuff. And I'm quite dexterous with these things. I'm a bit of a metal worker as well, like more precision stuff. And it was absolutely fine. I'm not saying that it'll work for everyone or that it's the way to go, but the problem with using a hot air gun is there's so little of the pad and so little of the leg that is able to be in the hot air. You've essentially got to heat up the whole capacitor, which can be a drama. But yeah, it worked for me really well, and the 1200 goes great. Once I finally can configure the InDivision, which was a tricky thing to configure. But that's probably heaps from me, unless anyone's got a question.
Hey, Michael, that little brochure you threw up from Newcastle, the VMS commands, can you scan that and send it to me by any chance?
Are you serious?
Yeah, I went to Newcastle, that's why, so I want to...
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess so, but like there's...
Yeah, cool.
VMS on WordPerfect?
No, you can skip that one.
So there's getting started with email, getting started on news, VMS WordPerfect on Wombat, getting started with VMS on Wombat.
Perfect.
What's Wombat?
So
It was a VMS node.
just the getting started with VMS on Wombat, or the
Can you do the news one and the email one as well?
news, email,
Yeah, that'll do.
getting started, and there was, what did I show first? Oh, the common VMS commands was the one I actually showed.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, it'd be good.
Sure. Yeah, no, like I didn't expect anyone to give us stuff. I just thought they were curiosities. It might take. Sorry, I'm not now. It might take me a little while to do it.
That's okay. I'm in no hurry.
So, Pat Breen, huh? Are you on? I assume you're on the Vintage Computer Group.
Yeah.
Don't email it to him. He's got to get started with emails first.
And news.
Yeah.
I'll maybe I should email them to you from a Vax VMS. I used to print my assignments on my Amiga to PDFs and then take them to a PC on campus and Z-modem them up to my Alinga account, my Unix account when I got one, and then send them to the PostScript printer in the computer lab. It was print and your file name out of your account, which you couldn't do anything in once your document was in there because it was too big and you'd blown all your quotas, and send it to the PostScript printer, and then you go up with the last number of your student number and pull it out of a pigeonhole. One day I forgot the PostScript argument, and I don't know how many of you have ever had a look at a PostScript file, but it's plain text. It has lots of plain text. I forgot the argument, and I had a stack of 136 column line printer tractor feed paper, an inch thick, with my entire PostScript file on it. And my printing credits weren't too bad because the line printer was cheap to print on, but I can just imagine this poor line printer there just belting out line after line after line of PostScript code. And I had scrap paper. 4 years. Beautiful. A3-ish. Anyway, my mouth runneth over. I will maybe message you, Pat, on the thing, and we'll figure out how to get them to you, and
Sounds
I'll
good.
figure out how to scan them. I mean, the Google camera thing does a pretty good scan these days. It's got a scan mode. It does all the keystone and.
Oh yeah, I'm not too fussed. They don't have to be like super high quality scans or anything. I mean, if you want to take photos with your phone, that'd be great.
Pat wants at least 1200 DPI.
Yeah, look, you won't get that out of a line printer. I'm telling you.
Thanks, Michael. All right, Alan, tell us what you've been doing.
You're on mute.
Unmute first.
We've appreciated what you've had to say so far. Hits the mute button.
That's it. That's it. Sorry, yeah, I was waiting for the other Michael to come on, but again, I haven't done a lot computer-wise. I've been doing a lot of imaging and scanning as normal. Ewan got a heap of your computers given to him.
Oh wow!
And we went through them, and of the whole stack, there was only 2 that I didn't have. So I've since scanned them, and I'll put them up on archive in the next day or 2.
Sweet.
There's also Murray Irwin from the OCMS bought some microbead discs from down here in Melbourne, which I picked up for him. And there was 36 discs, I think, and 36 of them I was able to image 100% error-free.
Anything new?
It was called, the program was, they've come from the author of a program called Job. It's basically for schooling to put in all the things that you're looking for to try and select what sort of job you want. Like, you know, do you want to be a doctor or a bloody dentist or whatever?
And it was 30, how many discs big?
Yeah, well, they had source code and there was backups of them, and then there's the different. And he had a disc for Victorian TAFE. Well, all the courses are on Victorian TAFEs, colleges, all Victorian universities, New South Wales TAFE, and New South Wales universities back in 1986. Yeah, I didn't realise that so many TAFEs and unis were around back in those days. And the amount of courses that they have was unbelievable. Yeah, so all in 36 discs. And and also, Pat, I've run you off a copy of the AMUST Executive, the 6 main discs that you got when you bought the unit. So I do have a copy for you.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Seeing that you're back from the UK now. I assume you'll be there at the December meeting.
I will be. Yep.
No worries, I'll have them there for you.
Do we know what date that is?
Ian has published a date, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, he has published, but I can't remember. If you go and do a quick search for computer markets, I think it's only about a week before Christmas, something like the 19th or 18th, 16th.
That could be challenging.
Hang on, I'll have a quick squeeze myself.
July 10th.
17th, December 17th. I put it in my calendar.
December 17th.
That's a Saturday.
Okay.
The 18th, Sunday the 18th.
I know that's the date he gave. I do know that's a Saturday, but that was the date he gave.
Oh, well, that's bloody typical of it. He can't get the day right. What, he's supposed to get the day and the date right? Or match? No, well, just looking at the calendar, it'll be the 18th, which is, yeah, exactly 1 week before Christmas.
So who can make it in December?
I reckon I will be there.
All right, if you guys are going to be there, I'll make sure I'm there.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be there, but I've...
Stuart, you going?
Wife's just yelling out, it's one of my granddaughter's birthday that day, so...
That's not good for you, Alan.
Well, I can always... Yeah, I can do half of one and half of the other.
Hey, and she can always have a birthday.
And she's only...
Leisure Centre.
She's only 10 minutes away from Keysborough. Maybe not even.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, it's not like Bandura.
She could definitely have it at the Springers Leisure Centre.
Yeah, I could talk her into it.
Yeah, it's a good place to have a birthday.
I was out at Ewan's place last week, and I'm not sure if I probably should mention it. And I think it was somebody was raising their GoTech. Was it Roy? Anyhow, someone had a GoTech here.
Michael did.
Michael. Oh, yes. And Ewan's actually making a GoTech and a 3.5-inch floppy in a little box.
Oh, wow.
I was trying, maybe you can share my...
let me enable.
Yeah, if you turn that on, I'll just...
Go for it.
Oops. Please ask the host to give you permission to record. I don't want to record.
Sharing is turned on. Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah, so you've got a 3.5-inch floppy. You've got your USB key to go in here. Into here. That's the little screen. And you can configure the floppy to be A, B, C, or D, the same as the GoTech can be A, B, C, or D.
Now, is this for a micro B or is this for a conventional?
It's for anything. Yes, it will be. Well, he's making it. Well, that's why it's got micro B technology on the front. But he knows there'll be a big market in the Amiga world. So, so the story goes in here. Oh, how the hell do I turn this off?
Well, what I'll do is I'll kick you out.
Yeah. Okay, that's better.
So, very good. Anything else, Alan?
No, I don't think so. I'm sure there'll be something later on, but I'll I can't remember it at the moment.
No worries. All right. So the other Michael, tell us about what you've been doing.
Hello. How you going?
Good.
I haven't joined one of these before, but I saw it on Facebook this afternoon, so I thought I'd drop in and see what it's all about.
Cool.
I am a computer hoarder is probably the best term.
That's insulting. You are a computer collector.
Oh, okay, probably the right term. Yeah, look, I live in Sydney. My first computer was a 286 without a hard drive. And since then I have a case of nostalgia and have tried to collect everything in between there and modern days, basically. And just recently I picked up, I've never owned or used an Amiga before, and it seems like that's a pretty popular thing. I might actually just show you. I picked this up about 2 weeks ago. I'll see if people can see it.
It's box.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. It's never been used. So it's an Amiga 600, sorry, and everything is like even the floppies have never been opened, basically. So that I have to do a bit of work on it because I've heard that power supplies can cause issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, better check the service mount caps on that one.
Yes, I've got actually the seller who sold it to me has given me caps, but I'll probably pay someone to do it. I can solder, but not probably to a quality that would match that machine. So yeah, look, it's not been yellowed or anything like that. It's brand new. The guy was a musician back in the 80s, and he bought 3 of them in 94, brand new, just as Commodore went bust in Australia, I think, and he picked them all up for next to nothing. And yeah, he decided to sell them. He had an Amiga 1200 as well. We knew in box that he sold to someone else. So
and that's a good investment.
Yes, I've heard the 600 is kind of like the bastard child of machines, but
I like it.
yes, yeah. Look, I've read a bit about it. It's got an IDE controller built in, which is kind of cool. So I think I need to, do a bit more. I haven't touched it. I haven't turned it on. I haven't got a monitor for it. But I'm going to do a bit more investigation into that before I, do anything with it. But I'm quite looking forward to that. So, yeah. What else? I have been trying to build all my retro machines into working computers, and I've got a good. Let me just move it around. This is my. See if this is my AT computers. Now I don't know if you can see this. So can we see? Where's my hands? Yeah. So this one's a 286. Then this one's a 386 DX40, which is pretty nice. I've got a 486 DX4100. This one's a K63, so fairly modern, that one. This one's an interesting machine, actually. It's a Pentium 100, but it's actually, when I bought it, it had never been touched. And it's actually from a company called Eidolon Computers that built it, and they were quite popular in Sydney back in the late 90s. And this one here is probably my favorite one. This is a Pentium 200 MMX, which I've built from scratch. So I've been trying to get them all sort of set up, basically. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. Nothing too crazy. Yeah, I'm more interested in like building computers up and getting them working than actually using them. So I build them up and then I'm like, all right, now what? So yeah, that's pretty much it, really.
Oh, really cool. Really cool. I wouldn't say you're a hoarder. Look,
yeah, you haven't seen any of it, so
no, you're correct.
Yeah.
I speak on behalf of all of us when I say you have not seen all of it.
Yes, I've got a quite a big stack of SGI gear and Mac gear as well. Yes, I've collected a lot.
What SGOs have you got?
Look, mostly the smaller ones. I've got about 10 indies. I've got 4 or 5 O2s. I've got 2 Indigo 2s and an Octane. So that's my sort of SGI gear. And I've got a couple of their CRT monitors as well. So that's pretty nice. I used to spend my friend back at high school's dad was a architect, and he used to get SGI gear to do all of his sort of architectural designs and stuff on it. So that got me into it. He gave me like a hand-me-down O2 that was like busted up. And I found some like 10 years ago, someone in Melbourne was selling a bulk lot of it, and I bought it all and got it shipped up to straight up to Sydney. I'm pretty sure the shipping cost was more expensive than the actual machines. So I got a pretty nice collection of them. I think the Indie is probably my favorite. It's simple and easy and reliable and works well. So I've got a whole range of different CPUs and video cards for it, but the Indie is probably my favorite, just as an easy machine to use RX on. So yeah, I like the SGI stuff. It's really cool.
Cool.
Very good.
I collect 3DFX video cards. I have a lot of those. I bought this one from a guy in Russia, which is the
wow.
That. Can you just hold that up again?
Yeah,
you can't get those anymore because of the Russian thing going on.
Yeah.
So
The Russian thing going on.
Yes. Let me get it out of the box.
Can you get the card out of the box?
Yes, I'll get the card out of the box.
And,
it's very heavy.
I think the PC people on here will appreciate this.
And then we can all start drooling over it.
It's difficult.
Oh my God.
4 VSA 100s.
Yeah.
So what is this? What is that?
So it's a replica Voodoo Fight 6000. It's all fully working.
It's the ultimate love letter to 3DFX.
Yeah.
So basically, do I understand correctly? That card didn't actually exist.
Not retail. They made. Sorry, I'm going to have to put this down.
Yeah.
Not retail. They didn't make one retail. I think they made a few hundred like pre-production cards with them. They did the 2-chip version. They never did the 4-chip in retail. And they went bust like at the end of 2001, I think it was, and NVIDIA bought them out. But this Russian guy has like reverse engineered all the 3DFX cards and built one basically. This one's actually on the PCI bus. All of the pre-production cards are AGP, and they only worked on the 3.3 volt AGP, so they're quite limited, whereas he's made a PCI one. So a pretty special card. I've had it running. It works really well. The drivers can be a little funky. There's a few crashes and stuff, but it's surprisingly good. Took a long time to save up for that because it was not a cheap card.
Hey, what would you stick that in? Like, what would be your
look? So
mix?
With PCI, you can get like a high-end P4 in PCI. That's fine. Otherwise, I think some people have got like the Core 2 Duo era stuff. There's PCI still. Look, you can run it in Windows XP basically. I had more luck in 98, which is kind of more what the cards were designed for. I think I ran it in a P4 3 gig, and that works well. I've got Serious Sam working on it and Unreal and all those sort of the glide games. And I got almost 100% scaling over the Voodoo 5, which was pretty impressive. But yeah, it really interesting card, but you have to, it needs bracing. Otherwise the whole thing will like rip the PCB out of because they're copper heat sinks and they're like really heavy. So you gotta be really careful with it. And you can see like it's like, if it's not up straight, it's like, so, it's not in a machine currently. It's a bit too expensive, a bit too special, basically. So he has made a newer revision that's a bit lighter weight and better. But yes, I won't be able.
He's done a beautiful job putting them together. Like, I mean, I've seen a few of his other cards he's done, like the reproduction of the 2-chip ones and that sort of stuff. He does an absolutely beautiful job on them.
He's done a whole like manual and everything. Like, it's insane. Like, for one guy, I don't know how you can, and honestly, I think like some of the cards are expensive, but I don't think you'd make much money on it. The cost to design the PCBs and the time and labor, I think he's just done an amazing job. So I actually own 4 of his cards because I thought it was amazing. He made a Voodoo 4 PCI, just like a little one. That was the first one I got. It was like a cheaper one. He then did a Power VR PCX2 chip, which was like the Matrox M3D, and a Voodoo 3 on the same board. That's really cool. He's done a Neon 250, which was the Power VR, so same chip that was in the Dreamcast, I think. And what else has he done? Something else I've got of his, I don't remember. So yeah, he's done some really cool stuff. He basically finds the chips on AliExpress and then reverse engineers them or finds the data sheet for them and makes chips out of them. So he's not cannibalizing other cards, which I think is really good. But yeah, it's obviously hard to find schematics and chips. So whatever he can find, he'll try and make it. So yeah, very smart guy, that's for sure. And some of the stuff he's made is better than 3DFX did. He said to me, because I talked to him a fair bit on Facebook, that the Voodoo 5, the first, like the one that they released, the PCB design was outsourced. 3DFX didn't actually do the PCB design. And he said it was really crap and it was like quite late. And he thinks that if they just did it in-house, they would have been able to release these boards a lot sooner and maybe would have competed with NVIDIA better. So yeah, he actually doesn't think that they were very well designed, the actual boards. The chips were good, but the boards were not very, very good. So I thought that was really interesting. So yeah, cool guy. So yeah, that's kind of, and I think that's about all I've done this weekend. I put a Voodoo 2 in a 486, which was a bad idea. Didn't go so well.
Yeah, tried that. It doesn't work very well.
Yeah, I think I got Quake 2 working on it, but it was like 4 frames a second. So yeah, that's about it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. My goal probably in the next couple of months is I want to get a really fast 486 going. So I've got an AM5 x86 CPU. But the motherboard I've got is like a PC chips one with fake cache. So I need to find a good motherboard, basically. But I want a PCI one with cache and the good chip in it. I want to get
the SIS 496 chipset's actually not bad. That's what's in that 486 there.
Cool.
That's not actually too bad. As I said, that's a Intel DX4 running at 120, and I'm getting about 13.9 to 14 FPS in the
in Quake.
Quake.
Yeah, that's really good. So
that's they're not bad.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And very configurable for the cache timing and the memory timing and everything.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, look, I think the best I've got so far is like 11.9 in Quake. So that's the near 14 is really good. So
I couldn't believe it when I did it and I got 14. I went, how am I getting 14? Like guys with 5X 130, the 586 133s, they're getting, get 12s and 13s. Like, how am I getting 14 out of this? Just
no, that's that's a really good performance. So yeah, I kind of the reason why I want to actually try and get a fast 486 is back when I was in high school, I had no money and I had a 486 and I tried to play StarCraft on it and it was awful. Absolutely awful. But I want to see what a fast 486 could do in StarCraft, basically. And I actually really want to try and benchmark it, but I don't know how to because there's no inbuilt benchmark or anything. But I want to compare it with like some other 486s, but some early Pentiums and stuff. But
when did StarCraft come out? I feel like that was
98. So it was like Pentium 90 was its system requirements.
Okay.
And it works pretty much any Pentium works quite well on, and it's a 2D game. But 486s, it can run it, but it's not a fun experience, basically. So I want to see if you can get a 486 that's like actually can play it somewhat reasonably. but I'm not sure if it's feasible. So we'll see. So yeah, that's my current sort of projects that I'm working on.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
And the last person is Cameron.
I got it working. So, well, just to prove that, just because you didn't see the obvious at PAX, it does exist. So let's have a look at the stupid thing I did. AJ
It's cool.
helped me with the analog electronics. How do I spin the camera around?
I reckon Anthony just said he didn't see it, so you can show it again.
All right, so we've got Vectrex, right? If you don't know what a Vectrex is, it's a vector game console from 1982.
Don't bang it like that, Cam.
What's that?
Treat it with love.
I said, don't bang it like that.
No, well, this is my workhorse version that I do for public. See, I had it as a kid and like I got angry with it a few times, and just don't talk about that. So I've got some multi-cart here, and this is the closest thing to an image I can find, like a little cantina, little guy going nuts, dodgily. So yeah, the spiel is, how do you take a screenshot of the Vectrex? Well, you don't do it with pixels, because pixels is not what a Vectrex does. They don't do pixels. They draw lines. You can see a little laser-like beam, perfectly smooth, no resolution, no pixels. So what I'm doing here, we soldered some wires to the back of the CRT, the analog section of the CRT, which is the deflection voltages, to actually draw the shape. And so we got X, we got Y, and we got Z for intensity, whether the beam's on and off. So what do you do then? Once you've got the wires, I'm running it through a sound card and sampling those values into my computer, and then reading the values real time and recreating the vectors in my own software.
Ooh.
See, so
Did
so
you say that you're converting it to audio, and then your own software is converting audio back to video?
Yeah. So
you're doing your own analog to analog conversion.
I don't know what you'd call it. Yeah. So it's actually really responsive. You can just play the game on the recreated. Now, this is obviously a digital screen, and I'm just drawing lines. And I'm really surprised how well it works, right? It's basically exactly the same. I would have thought there'd be some crazy analog drifting, and there is, but it's, that's pretty cool. It depends on how nerdy you are.
I am gobsmacked. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm truly surprised how, yes, it's been a hugely convoluted thing, and my flatmate AJ helped me with the analog, was a voltage divider or something, yeah. Because obviously there's 5 volts coming out of this thing.
Deflection voltage down to line level.
Yeah, so get it down to line level for audio. Now, realistically, I should be using an Arduino or something, but I just plugged it into my multi-channel sound box, and it's fast enough. So 96 kilohertz is fast enough to recreate those vectors pretty accurately. Okay, so once you've got a big list of vectors, so that's a screenshot effectively, right? You've got a list of vectors, and basically I output it as, there you go, a big ass list of vector coordinates, right? So that is the screenshot vector, or vector screenshot, right? But once you've got those vectors, what do you do with it? You send it over a serial cable to a 1984 XY plotter. So I can hit the Captrex button. Is it going to work? Well, it's not going to work. What are you doing? What are you doing? Hang on, I'll try again. this better work, because I was freaking around. So just Rob can verify that it does actually work. Where's the right to serial port is off? God. Right, here we go. Yeah, so this is why I'm running this ancient dual core bloody laptop, because it's the only thing I've got in the house with a real serial port that can run modern software. All right, so here we go. I'm going to send that. Here we go. Grab the pen. see that, but you see. Exactly. Well, the aspect ratio. I still haven't fixed it. Well, I tried.
So this is now an analog to analog to analog converter.
Yeah, it's like, as I say, it's like 5 levels deep of weird nicheness.
That's so cool.
I gotta say, kudos to you for doing this. This has to be a world first.
I presume so. I said that I put it on the Vectrex Facebook group, and a few other people said, yeah, I thought of doing that. So it's to vector lovers, it is reasonably, once you look at a plotter. Oh, hang on, here's the finishing touch.
It says hello. What the heck?
No, hang on. AVCC, Australian Vintage Computer Collectors.
And how did you get that? Is that a standard Vectrex feature?
No, that's not Vectrex. That's with the ancient language of HPGL, which I had to learn, which is the serial encoding, like the string encoding for different commands for 1984 plotters. And it was like a pseudo standard back in the day. So there's all sorts of little commands to do, like arcs and lines and labels and all sorts of different fonts. Yeah, well, there you go.
That is amazing.
There we go. I'll turn off the anti-static, like the static holder. All right, so now I can pull it off because it holds it with static. Which is awesome. There you go.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
It's pretty
The
convoluted.
aspect ratio is making that kind of look like the silence from Doctor Who.
Yeah, I know why the aspect is out, so I just got to fit with that. So yeah, it's like a Rube Goldberg machine. I like to think of it as, like, it's just a fascinating, pointless series of steps to get to somewhere that no one wanted. So once you've got that idea going, then the next obvious thing is to make, I haven't got this working yet, but the next one I want to do is turn it into a flip book. So I'll take a series of vectors over time and draw a little grid of mini screenshots.
I was actually thinking you're gonna could put it to something useful.
No, and then cut it out and make a little animated flip book. Won't that be cool?
Of course. Why wouldn't you?
Well, if you could think of something useful, then great. I can't.
Well, now that you've captured the XY, the data, you should be able to feed it back into the Vectrex and draw your own vector graphics on it.
Yeah, so that's another feature. Like, this is the thing. Like, once you realize this can work, then the ideas just automatically come. So I want to forget the plotter and just do a recorder. So record the input and then be able to play it back on the real Vectrex screen as like a replay system.
So just tell me, how were you able to get the voltages into a sound recording device and then display it in whatever that application is? Just talk me through that.
Well, I mean, the voltage is in the analog section. So at the point where the digital board finishes and it finally sends the analog +5, -5 volts to the CRT as a deflection amount, right? We just solder a couple of wires there. We don't just. So the one thing I wanted to do, there's no destructive mods or modern hardware, no special card. You can do that fairly easily with modern cartridges and stuff. I wanted to see if you could just play with the analog stuff. So analog's analog, right? It's a voltage. Audio's a voltage. All you got to do is step it down from 5 volts to 1 volt, which is line in levels. And bang, you can read it. Now, I assumed my ASIO sound box wouldn't sample fast enough to represent it. So this was just a placeholder, expecting to have to use an Arduino, right? But it turns out 96 kilohertz is fast enough to do it. I can't do text. So when the Vectrex draws text, it comes out weird and doesn't quite draw it right.
What
Yep.
What resolution are you doing the audio? So it's 96 kilohertz, but at what, 16 or 24 or 32 bit, or what bit depth are you using?
24 bit.
24
Now,
bit.
now the intensity thing is pretty much on or off, so that doesn't really matter. Now these things, I did have trouble with truncating and resolution sort of quantizing. So I had to fiddle around with basically with the gain of different channels. You can see it essentially is the scale.
Yep.
And if you go too far up the gain, see the vectors actually clip to the edge, which looks awesome. So it still draws the vectors, but they're just clipping like digital audio would.
Yep.
And it comes back down. Yeah. So
Oh.
basically when the intensity changes, I assume that's a pen up, pen down command. So here, the little beam is still moving. You just can't see it because the intensity goes to 0. If I turn up the brightness enough, you can just see the beam actually moving to the next spot. I'll pump the brightness up full, which I think is a cool effect. Actually, if I turn that off and just do the normal game, it's a proper games console with cartridges and everything, if you don't know what this is. So there's the Vectrex. My one says not quite doing it. So the text is the only thing that's rasterized on the Vectrex. So this is their built-in game, which is like the Asteroid style game. Oh, look how smooth that is. See, it doesn't look right. Like you can't emulate a Vectrex. Like you got to see it in real life. Like, it's just one of those things. So this is a bit more obvious. When I turn the brightness up, you can see the gun. There you go, jumping to the different spots, which I think is cool as hell.
Cameron, have you ever seen the sort of almost the other way around, the demos for oscilloscopes that are you download as audio files?
Yeah, that's great. Like, so that is, people often do that. They'll drill XYZ inputs into their Vectrex and have like a switch to switch the main motherboard on and off, so they can use that as a display unit.
Because it'd be really nice. I mean, I don't have a Vectrex, probably never will have, but I do have a dual trace Crow.
Ah, yeah, right.
The audio you're recording can't be too far off.
No,
directly displayable.
Well, I mean, AJ is the analog electronics, my flatmate, and the first thing we did is hook up his Crow,
right,
to see if audio files. So AJ figured out, like, he encoded the words hello into audio, saved it, sent it to the Crow, and that proved that the idea would work. And then we just continued from there.
It's genuinely impressive, man. I'm blown away.
It's pretty weird. The little plotter language is kind of cool. Like the actual language that it spits out is real simple. Right, there you go. So what do we got? We got, it's got like PD for pen down, P up, pen up. It's got SP to select the pen. It'll go and grab it for you. It's got scaling options, so you can draw to different parts of the page. And you just assemble it in code, and there's the text stuff. Hello, ABCC, LB. It's a pretty elegant little thing. So, there's a lot of weird little steps involved to get it that good. For instance, like the Z axis, the intensity always seems to be one ASIO update behind, like audio frame buffer behind. I was getting, so you can change the intensity and see all the jumping lines, like the beam jumping between them. So there's a lot of tweaking, analog tweaking, I suppose, is the trickiest. So there you go.
Nicely done, Cam. That's amazing.
What's my weird thing? The other thing I've been doing is I also went to Syntax and I just wrote some Game Boy music for one of the entries, which is a hell of a challenge because he wanted it to sound like June, and he sent me this song, which is the least Game Boy sounding song you've ever heard, like by Hans Zimmer. I'm going, I can't. What the hell? Like, that's not. I don't know if you know anything about Game Boy hardware, but holy shit, the sound chip is garbage, and it's bizarrely restrictive. So, if you want to actually check out Syntax, go to the Twitch stream. It's all recorded from yesterday and today. And it's just guys making artistic things on Commodore 64s and, weird systems like this. It's freaking cool. So if you go to the demo section, like you literally go to Twitch and search for Syntax Party, and you'll see yesterday's main stream. And you'll see the Game Boy demo, which is like a Middle Eastern type themed Dune mashup. And you'll see also the same sort of setup I did presented to those guys. They thought it was cool because they're like, if we think our group's geeky, that group is easily as geeky in a slightly different way. They're more of a slightly more about arty production type geek with obscure hardware. So it's a cool combination of like actually making something with hardware. Like someone was saying that, oh, I like to restore them, but I don't know what to do with them once you made it, right? That's kind of where the Syntax Party steps in and says, well, you know, make something, make a cool little picture, or make a little animation, or make a little spinning shape on a weird system that is totally incapable of doing that. They've got like ASCII competitions and PETSCII competitions, and yeah, it's great. I recommend it to any of you guys if you want to go to syntaxparty.org. Yeah, just next year, make something for one of your obscure old systems and actually present it. It's great fun. Cool. So yeah, there we go. That's what I've been doing. And other than PAX stuff, which is, you know, just restoring old machines and whatnot, that's the IBM, which again, you didn't seem to notice.
It wasn't there.
It totally was there. Rob, you can vouch for that. They even had an Alley Cat competition, an official PAX Alley Cat competition. And people got very excited because apparently Alley Cat is a favorite. The only thing I cheated with this though is I did put an EGA Wonder card in, like ATI Wonder, because it really is an amazing card if you're into XTs and old school PCs, because it'll do EGA, CGA, MDA, and Hercules, and also allow you to output it to any type of monitor, including the original green screen MDA. So you can play EGA games on the green screen.
That's amazing.
Which is awesome. Like, it detects the type of monitor and sets the, you know, hertz rate and all that sort of weird stuff. So you don't have to worry about your monitor blowing up depending on what type of game you want to play. So
similar to a VGA card that I've got. I've got a what is a Speedstar 24,
right.
which is an ET4000 chipset. But the utility that comes with it allows you to you can set it to EGA, CGA, I think Hercules and MDA, and its CGA emulations actually works because you can actually play the game Digger on it.
Yeah. That's one of the tests for CGA to see if it doesn't screw up the the colors when it changes scenes.
Yep, or just doesn't work at all.
The real test though is to run one of the demos, CGA demos from something like Syntax Party. One of the guys who runs Syntax did all a music for a recent CGA demo, which if you look it up, I'll put a link in for that demo, because honestly, if you know anything about the original PC, 8088, 4.7 megahertz, whatever it was, with a CGA card and 640K RAM, it will honestly you just won't understand how they're doing what they're doing. So I'll put a link to the YouTube video for that. That's the sort of level that we're talking about. And there's my EGA monitor, which I have to apparently drill open the power supply to replace the riffer caps. So that's annoying and very IBM of them, but I want to get that working. So I'm trying to restore a 5170 as well to match the old 5150. And there's my stash of XT cards been going through.
Nice.
Boxes and boxes of XT cards.
Nice.
It's terrific. All right, that's enough for me.
Cool. Great. Well, that is it for the group. Is there anything else that we want to talk about before we wrap this up?
One thing that's kind of adjacent to the stuff Stuart was talking about earlier about that Unreal Engine mainframe emulation. It reminded me of a project I saw, which is a game currently in development by someone who's actually based in Melbourne called Zero Page, which is a game where I'm going to throw its link in chat. It's basically a sci-fi sort of adventure game where to solve it, you have to take charge of an Apple II and an emulated Apple II and actually program it in BASIC. And it's a similar thing. It's a game written in Unreal that has this Apple II emulator embedded in it. So you can check the homepage out, and there's a few videos of it emulating like it's
awesome. Yeah,
It's at the point where you could see it running games like Choplifter and stuff on it. So it's like I guess the equivalent of an Apple II Plus. It's actually pretty nuts, this game. And yeah, it's being developed in Melbourne, so one worth keeping an eye out for. Apparently it's going to be coming out on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So
it's not out yet.
It's not out yet.
So what you can see is just a YouTube video of the game at the moment. Is that it? Rob?
Yeah, just
Okay.
the videos of the game, unfortunately, like the work in progress videos.
Cool. That's we'll keep an eye out for that.
That's horrible. I love it.
Very good. Anything else anyone would like to say before we wrap this up?
There was something else I was thinking of before about 20 minutes ago. Now I can't remember what it was.
Well, we will have to wait till next month.
I have to wait till next month.
Take handwritten notes. It helps. There's a reason I have 10 fountain pens on my desk, and it's because my memory is awful. No, actually, it's because I'm addicted to fountain pens.
Looking at the calendar, it will be the 11th of December the next time we do this. And I promise I won't let it slip again. But so the 11th of December, we will catch up again and talk about what we're doing. And maybe I will actually do something vintage related. Maybe I will do some of the stuff that I planned to do about 3 months ago. Speaking of Retro Challenge, before I continue, I finally got my prize from Retro Challenge 2021, which is great. It arrived like a couple of weeks ago. I got a beautiful mouse pad and an Arduino, I think.
Cool.
So that was pretty cool. And no doubt, Cameron, did you do that for Retro Challenge?
I didn't do it for Retro Challenge, but it was in the same month, and it did push me to write a full blog write-up on it. So I'm glad Retro Challenge did sync up with it.
But you didn't submit it to Retro Challenge.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, so you will easily win that.
Oh, I don't know. Like
That's a pretty
impressive.
It's a pretty amazing project. So I'm pretty sure that you will get
Get a mouse mat out of it.
A mouse mat. Sure.
A year late.
Anticipation is the best thing.
Now, all I did last year was scan documents, and I got a mouse mat and an Arduino. So I'm sure
There's some pretty good ones this year, though. Like some pretty full-on, low-level stuff going on. It depends on like what wins, right? Like novelty versus like just insane levels of technical knowledge. So I don't know. Like it's pretty varied.
I still think you are a winner.
Oh, I'm just glad it worked. Like I said last time we met, when I said this is what I'm going to do, I honestly didn't have any proof whatsoever that it was going to work. And I thought there's like a dozen things that could completely stop this from working at all. And yeah, I think having a deadline like Retro Challenge and showing it at PAX, that was mostly broken. The one I showed, Syntax, works perfectly. So those sort of deadlines are great. That's why I like stuff like PAX and Syntax Party and whatnot. Just, having a deadline.
All right. Anything else anyone wants to say before we wrap it up?
No, thanks, guys. Just good to meet everyone.
Good. All right. Well, we'll see everybody on the 11th of December. Look forward to seeing you then. But thanks very much for coming and talking.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.